My daughter got married last spring. And an hour before I walked her down that aisle, she took my hands, looked me dead in the eye, and told me the one thing I did that almost broke her. I had spent 27 years believing I'd done right by that girl. It took one sentence, in a little church dressing room, to show me how wrong I'd been about the most important thing I ever did. I raised Grace to be strong. Her whole life. That was the plan. My one job. I thought if I could just make her tough enough, the world would never be able to hurt her the way it once hurt me. What I never once considered was that a person can be strong enough to carry anything and still be dying quietly underneath the weight of it. If you're raising kids, or raising yourself, the way some of us had to, I need you to hear this one before you get it wrong the way I nearly did. Because the lesson cost me almost everything that mattered. And I'd rather hand it to you the cheap way than let you learn it the way I did. I'm going to tell you the whole thing. How I raised her, what she said to me in that dressing room, and the 3 words I had refused to say for 21 years. By the end, you'll know the difference between raising a child who is strong and raising a child who is safe. They are not the same thing. I learned that far too late. Grace was 6 years old when we buried her mother. Ellen, my wife, was the soft one. She was the lullabies, the band-aids, the come here, let it out, I've got you, let it out. I was the other thing. And when a drunk driver took her one October night, I stood in that hospital hallway and made myself a promise. This little girl was never going to be caught soft in a hard world. Not on my watch. So I raised her the only way I thought love looked. Scraped knee? Up you get, you're all right. Nightmare? Big girls sleep in their own beds. First, heartbreak at 16. Crying at the kitchen table? I said, don't let a boy see you cry. Be strong. I thought I was building armor. I told myself every hard thing I said was a brick in a wall that would keep her standing when I wasn't there to hold her up. And here's the first thing they never tell you. A child will do anything. Anything. To be what you tell them to be. Grace got strong. God, she got strong. Straight A's. Captain of everything. Worked 2 jobs through college and never asked me for a dime. Every report card, every trophy, I'd just nod and say, good. Stay strong. I thought I was raising a fighter. I didn't know I was teaching her that my love had a price. And the price was never, ever falling apart. What I couldn't see, what I refused to see, was what it cost her to be the girl I kept applauding. She learned to cry in the shower, where the water covered it. She learned to say, I'm fine, in a voice so convincing I believed it for 20 years. She learned that the fastest way to lose me was to need me. And so, slowly, quietly, she stopped. There was a stretch, her sophomore year of college, when the calls got shorter. I'm fine, Dad. Busy. I'm handling it. I was proud of that. Handling it. That was the whole goal. I didn't find out until years later that during that same stretch, she was barely sleeping, barely eating, sitting on the floor of her dorm, convinced she was drowning, and certain she was not allowed to tell a single soul. Least of all me. She almost didn't make it through that year. My strong girl. And I never knew, because I had trained her, from the age of 6, to make absolutely sure I never would. So, the wedding. Last spring. She's 27, radiant, and I'm standing in that little church dressing room in a rented suit, trying not to fall apart myself. And she takes both my hands. And she says, "Dad, before we go out there, I need to tell you something. And I need you to just listen." She said, "You raised me to be strong. And I am. I can survive almost anything. You made sure of that." And then her voice broke, and she said, "But for most of my life, I thought I had to be strong to be loved by you. I thought if I ever really fell apart, you'd be disappointed in me." Do you know what almost broke me, Dad? It was never the hard things. It was carrying all of them alone. Because I didn't think I was allowed to bring them to you. I want to tell you I said something wise. I didn't. I just stood there while 21 years rearranged themselves in front of me. Every "be strong" I'd ever said, she had heard as, "Don't bring me your weakness." Every trophy I praised, she'd heard as, "This is why I'm worth loving." I thought I'd been building a wall to protect her. I'd built it right down the middle of the two of us. And then she said the thing I'll carry to my grave. She said, "I didn't need you to make me tough, Dad. The world was always going to do that. I needed you to be the one place I was allowed to be soft." You find out, sometimes far too late, that there are two halves to loving a child. One is teaching them to stand on their own. The other, the one nobody put on a poster in my day, is making sure they know that when they can't stand, you will get down on the floor with them. I had spent everything on the first half. I had given her almost nothing of the second. And a child needs both. Or the strength you gave them slowly turns into the loneliest cage there is. Because strength isn't the opposite of needing people. That was my mistake the whole time. I thought strong meant never leaning. But the strongest thing my Ellen ever did was let people hold her. I'd forgotten that. And I'd spent 21 years teaching our daughter to be the one thing her mother never was: alone with it. So I did the only thing a foolish old man can do when he finally understands. I held her hands there in that dressing room, in front of nobody, and I said the 3 words I had swallowed for 21 years. Not the 3 you're thinking. I said, "You're allowed to. You're allowed to fall apart. You're allowed to be tired. You're allowed to come home broken and let me carry it for a while. You're allowed to." I told her I was sorry. I told her I had loved her every single day of her life. Not for the trophies, not for the straight A's, not for how much she could carry. Just for her. That if she never accomplished another thing as long as she lived, she would still be the best thing I ever did. I should have said it when she was 6. I said it at 27. And I said it because it is never, ever too late to start. We were both a wreck by the time we walked out of that room. Ruined her makeup. Ruined mine too, if we're being honest. And then I walked my strong, soft, whole daughter down that aisle. She calls me now. The real calls. The 3 in the morning. Dad, I'm having a hard day calls. And I want you to understand. Those calls are the great prize of my entire life. Not the trophies. The fact that she finally believes she can bring me the broken pieces. That is the only report card that ever mattered. And it took me until I was an old man to read it right. So here's what I want to hand down to you tonight. Parents, grandparents, and every one of you who was raised the way I raised her. Just 3 things. Write them on the back of your hand if you have to. 1. Yes. Raise them strong. The world is hard. That part I had right. But strength that has nowhere to rest isn't strength. It's just a person learning to suffer quietly. Teach them to stand. And teach them, just as hard, that they are allowed to sit down in your arms when standing is too much. 2. Watch what you clap for. A child becomes whatever they think earns your love. If you only ever cheer the trophies, the grades, the toughness, they will hide from you everything that isn't those things, including the parts that are quietly breaking. Praise who they are at least as loud as what they do. 3. Say the words. Not be strong. Say, you don't have to be strong with me. Say, you're allowed to fall apart. Say, I love you exactly as you are, and there is nothing you could ever bring me that would make me love you less. Say it while they're small. And if, like me, you missed it, say it now. Tonight. It is never too late to become the safe place you were always supposed to be. I raised my daughter to be strong. It turned out the bravest, strongest thing she ever did was look her old man in the eye on her wedding day and teach him how to be soft. That's her mother in her. Ellen would have been so proud. So do something for me tonight. Before you close your eyes. If there's someone in your life you've only ever asked to be strong, your kid, your spouse, maybe the person in the mirror, tell them they're allowed to fall apart with you. Then down in the comments, tell me, who taught you that you were allowed to be soft? I read every single one. Subscribe to Last Generation Stories and hold the ones you love a little closer while they're still here to hold. Wisdom before it's gone. I'll see you in the next story.